Hi, this is Max Rottersman at Does It Matter and Why? And today we're joined by Craig Kelly again. Hi, Craig.
Max, how you doing?
So I guess the question today is going to be, what's in a name?
Everything's in a name, Max. That's why I'm calling you Max. If I started talking to George, you'd be confused until we figured out that I just replaced your name with a new name. So Max doesn't really mean anything, but we can talk about lots of other things that are given names or terms, and they start having a meaning that defines how we look at them.
Yes, I mean, I noticed that generally whenever anybody wants to do something, they'll put like safety at the end of it. Or
Garden Street safety improvements. You put up a flyer like that on Garden Street, and people are like, oh, great, it's going to be safer. I don't need to go to that meeting.
yeah, I mean, let's explain for our viewers what we're talking about here.
So the city of Cambridge has this big bike lane program that they're putting in throughout the city. And when they need to redesign a street to put in the bike lanes, and I do nothing but bike, by the way. I do nothing but bike in Cambridge. And these bike lanes are horribly dangerous. Independent of that, though, they have a process. We're going to put in bike lanes, and we need to talk to people about it. And so they call them safety improvements. Garden Street safety improvements, North Mass Ave safety improvements. And for most people, you see a flyer, and maybe you get an email that says safety improvements, and you think, oh, they're going to make the street safer. That can only be a good thing. But when you look at the projects, and it turns out, well, they're redirecting traffic down other streets, they're getting rid of parking, they're creating maintenance issues for the bike facilities. All these different things really have negative impacts. But looking at the advertisements for safety improvements, people won't make that connection. And so you get a sort of a stay-at-home attitude from people who are giving the whole idea a pass because someone smartly termed it a safety improvement. And we see that with other things too.
Yeah, I mean, with Garden Street, when I'm in Harvard Square, often I'll take Garden Street home. And of course,
Not anymore.
not anymore. So like, yeah, and it's a wide street. I've never felt there's been any threat to bicyclists either way because it's
Well,
just
have you
so
ever
much.
biked it?
No.
Okay, so
Is
who
it-
cares what you think?
Well, what do you think? I mean, how was it before?
I never thought it was particularly dangerous.
Right.
It's probably better now, although the way they put in the bike facilities with the bolsters that separate it, those present a lot of new dangers. But it's more the idea of the discussion. When you call something a safety improvement, and it's many things, you're misleading people. So we've talked about transparency before. What you call something defines how the conversation takes place. So, for example, are you pro-life?
Sure.
So what does that mean?
It means I'm pro-life. Like, yeah, I mean, we should respect all.
All right.
living things.
Does that mean you're pro-forced birth? You want women to be forced?
No.
Okay, well, arguably, that is what American lexicon has become. If you are, quote, pro-life, you are someone who wants women to be forced to bear a child. However they got pregnant. Now, you and I, for years, gave these people the right to define themselves as pro-life by honoring that term. That's just wrong. We cannot give people the value of the terms they choose just because they chose them. I'm pro-life. I want you to live. I want my family to live. I want some undocumented immigrant to live. I also don't want women to be forced to bear children in the case of rape, in the case of incest, in the case of danger to their mom's health. There are all sorts of good reasons a woman should not be forced to bear a child. I refuse to give the other side, the forced birth side, the ability to define this discussion in terms of pro-life. It's just stupid.
Right, and I think the whole abortion naming thing. I mean, that's been going on for a while, and I think most people are realize that. But as we were talking on the phone yesterday, the problem I have is that there's no, like in Massachusetts, there's no pushback. So to me, when somebody said, "Oh, let's call it the Garden Street, safety improvement," like nobody there on the city council or anybody saying, "I don't think we should call it a safety improvement because that's sort of like, that's biasing the issue." And so, yeah, I mean, the naming now is everywhere. and because of the gerrymandering, the different political parties, like there's no well, maybe there is, I don't know, but I don't see any pushback from the beginning. So as soon as somebody wants to do something, as soon as like the bike lobby or whatever wants to make Garden Street one way, they start right from the beginning with this this naming thing to start pushing their agenda. Nobody stops them right from the beginning.
Right. I think the bigger issue here, Mike, Max, and the talking about naming, and the Garden Street is really this tiny example of the larger problem, which is transparency and honesty in government. So if I can't trust the people who are making decisions or influencing decisions to be honest about the language they use to describe something, how can I trust the decision they'll make? So we raise it up a bit, go to the Republican Freedom Caucus. Like, who's against freedom? Well, no one's against freedom, so they grabbed a great name. Of course, I would argue they are against freedom. They grabbed a great name and one that resonates with American history and American culture. And those of us that talk about these people and give them the value of their name, we are falling into their trap. And it's not just them. It's the bike lobby. It's the forced birth discussion. Arguably it works both ways. So when I was in Georgia, I was working for the voter protection for Georgia. There's nothing in there that said it was a Democratic Party thing.
Right.
I was working for anyone to vote. I didn't care whether they're Democratic or Republican or independent. But the reality is it was a Democratic program because we Democrats believe when more people vote, as they should be able to, it helps Democrats win. Right? So there's a policy agenda there. The policy agenda is to get Democrats and these forward-looking policies enacted and elected. So we call it voter protection. Now, someone else might say, well, you should call it democratic voter protection or voter protection by Democrats or something like that, even though we'll protect anyone's right to vote. We've got a dog in the fight. It's not an unbiased action that we're doing. And we talked about bias before.
Yeah, I think that's
Well,
yeah.
I'll get something as minor. I just saw your dog walk in. We could call animal control. It used to be called the dog catcher.
Right.
Now it's animal control. Now it's animal rescue and control, right? We started thinking, well, names matter. Dog catcher sounds sort of aggressive. Animal control, well, that's fine if you're talking about raccoons maybe or squirrels, wildlife. When you start talking about rescuing a cat or a dog, that control sounds harsh, and it takes some of the fuzziness out of this government agency that has people license their dogs and license their cats and stuff like that. So we understand the importance of names, and I would argue animal control and rescue is a good name. That's an accurate name for the thing that organization does. I would say Freedom Caucus, no. They're taking a really valuable commodity in the terms of that language and corralling it for their benefit, and we give them that right when we use their term. Same thing with forced birth versus pro-life. Same thing with Garden Street safety improvements.
Yeah, it's just words matter, and I actually feel it's part of this young generation. I mean, they don't read as many books. They're online.
Oh, there you go. Being grumpy. Us old
grumpy.
people always complain about the young generation.
Right, but
You're
I'm
a
sure our parents
philosopher.
did
You
it
know that
before.
from way back.
Well, yeah, for whatever. But I do believe society is getting less and less. Well, words matter.
And we know why now.
Right, we know. Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have any further thoughts, I think that's enough for today.
I'm good with my thoughts for today, Max. I would like to just bring one other thing up, and we'll talk about this in the future a lot, because both of us are interested in local transportation issues. But the whole bicycle discussion, when you put an electric motor on a bicycle, people have been calling it an e-bike. And it's really not. It's a motorized bicycle with pedals. So we could put pedals on a motorcycle, big Harley Davidson motorcycle, and it wouldn't become a motor bicycle. So these e-bikes really should more accurately be called electrocycles, electric bicycles with pedals on them.
Yeah, we can both go off on
Well,
this
we will.
for
We
a
will
few
go off.
hours.
We will go off on that later. But my point is, there are all sorts of different reasons people name things, and it's almost never arbitrary. It might not be a successful name, but it's almost never, hey, that name sounds good. I haven't put much thought into it. It's got a reason behind it, and we need to think about those reasons when we start having discussions.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for watching. It's Craig Kelly and Max Rottersman on November 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 2022.
All right. Thanks a lot, Max.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.